in the journal. Mr. Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'm going to start out by saying I'm a straight white guy. This is not my experience. But I do have friends, family, constituents that I love and care about, and I've been at this microphone to talk about this issue before. Members, trans rights are human rights. They're human rights. With this bill, this is government, this is big government, trampling on the fundamental rights of our constituents with government overreach into their personal lives, interfering with families' most private and personal decisions. Y'all, these are just humans trying to live their lives. They are only seeking their most basic, fundamental right to pursue happiness however they see fit. Y'all have seen the commentary on gender-affirming care we all have in this chamber today. We've been inundated with hyperbolic and alarming messaging using the most egregious and ugly language. We have seen truckloads of false and misleading statements stoking fear and hate. These damaging narratives would have us believe the very worst of each other. Look at your neighbors and the chairs next to you, and it doesn't matter what letter is after our name. There is not a single member of this body that I believe wants to harm children. And the language used around that is beyond egregious. It's horrific. And these lies and misinformation narratives are being repeated over and over and over again in social media circles, shared by email, text messages. We have seen testimony here in this room, in the Capitol. It's been repeated by elected officials on this microphone here today. I have heard over and over it said today that studies show 80% of children just given psychological care revert back. That was broadly debunked. I have studies and studies of studies. I would invite the author to actually cite the reference for that, because I have studies that show National Institute of Health, factors leading to detransition among transgender and gender diverse people in the United States. This is peer-reviewed research about research by actual scientists. So listening to scientists and medical researchers, people who make their whole life about this, instead of listening to politicians loosely use facts, loosely use data, loosely use stuff that they heard, all of us have some friends that say, I do my own research, immediately followed by bald-faced mistruths. Members, what we're talking about here is care for kids. We all want our children to have the very best care possible. And although we may disagree on what that looks like and what it is, in a society like ours, most often we defer to families as being the ones to have the best interests of their individual children at heart. These are delicate, difficult, individual, nuanced decisions to be made by families with their faith, with their doctors, with their medical providers, psychologists, psychiatrists, the professionals that work with care and love to provide the best care possible for each individual child. We talk about one size doesn't fit all for 254 counties, one size doesn't fit all for 30 million constituents in our state. Okay, y'all have heard of the American Medical Association. We talked about it a little bit tonight. American Medical Association has over 271,000 members. This is not a small organization. They were founded in 1847. On their website, they claim they are the only medical association that convenes 190 plus state and specialty medical societies. And this is a quote from the American Medical Association. The AMA opposes the dangerous intrusion of government into the practice of medicine and the criminalization of healthcare decision-making. Gender-affirming care is medically necessary, evidence-based care by professionals that improves the physical and mental health of transgender and gender diverse people. In 2021, the AMA delivered a letter to the National Governors Association urging state governors to oppose legislation just like this. The letter cited evidence demonstrating that foregoing gender-affirming care can have tragic consequences for transgender individuals who face increased risk of anxiety, stress, substance abuse, and suicide. The majority of transgender and diverse gender patients reported improved mental health and lower rates of suicide after receipt of gender-affirming care. The bill and the false negative and rhetoric around it politicizes kids who are often fragile and at a delicate juncture in their life. It's wrong and immoral to take these delicate decisions away from the families. Members, time and again, when legislators seek to contravene the experts, especially in complex fields of study, it never ends well, and neither will this. Members, our Constitution and our House rules require us to hold public meetings so that those who wish to be heard can come to their state capitol and testify before us, before decision makers. This is the people's house. It's our responsibility to listen to the people. We do a great disservice to the people when we alter our processes to silence the voices of the citizens of our state. And that is exactly what happened in the committee hearing for the companion bill to this in the House. In what might be an all-time record, over 3,000 Texans came here to the Capitol and registered a position on the bill. 2,917 registered against, 97 registered for. Around 400 people actually registered to testify. We were watching this whole thing from my office. I saw the entire committee hearing. Only a couple of dozen people actually registered to testify for this bill. Do you know how many total were allowed to speak? With over 450 people who registered to testify on this bill, either on, for, or against, roughly 50 people got to speak. And most of them were cherry-picked or preferred testimony, invited testimony. I'm just going to say it again. Trans rights are human rights. When this body seeks to infringe upon the rights and liberties of our citizens, we should at a minimum have the fortitude to face those people and hear them out. I hope you can agree with me when I say, when the government seeks to intrude into our private lives, the government is making an error. It's always wrong. Please vote no on this legislation.